everybody. It's Kevin O'Neill and Andrew Caravella, and it's Season 1, Episode 15 of Kevin and Andrew Have a Podcast. How about that? Woo!
Yes.
We're live tonight. How about that?
I'm excited about this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I am excited, too. I'm thrilled to pieces that we're actually live on a night that we're actually doing the show, not having to edit and come back later and be on a few days later. We're actually live right now on Facebook, so if you want to join us, do it.
Yeah, this is the time to do it, everybody. So, Kevin, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Been busy trying to get a few things adjusted. Working on. I got some new sound equipment this last couple of weeks, and putting that to the test to make sure everything works okay. And also working in the studio, and I'm just doing a lot of stuff. The bands have been playing. I've been DJing some. I'm kind of still working a little bit off and on. And how about you, man?
I've been doing a lot of auditions. Nothing has stuck yet. We're hoping. We're always hoping. I got ready for tonight. I actually busted out the old AC, look.
This is what you like, right? This
is what I like. This is literally what I mean. If we look, this is ACTV at its best. It says pop music saved my life. Okay, so. I'm wearing my white, ripped skinnies. So we got that going on.
This is still an early generation for you, though, right?
What do you mean?
Well, you're like a 90s boy. You're not really an 80s boy, are you?
Yeah, but
you like boy band stuff. You're like, Mr. Boy.
That's what the generation does, right? They always adopt what came before them. So, right, but, I got the bling. We're doing it. I even got white Ray-Bans, right? We got the white Ray-Bans.
You are the man.
And then if I want to get all 80s, I even got the virtual reality stuff going on here.
Prop.
See this?
This
is good stuff right here. I should just do the show with that the whole time, huh?
You didn't bring your Devo hat. What's up with that?
I did not. I did not bring the Devo
my Sprite
hat.
Can. My Sprite can is from the 80s. Sprite was around.
That,
did you know that?
Was Sprite around in the 80s?
Yes, it was. Here's something that wasn't around in the 80s. It was hand sanitizer.
You guys didn't have hand sanitizer in the 80s?
I don't know if they did or not. I'm sure they did.
I was about to say.
We're excited because it is 80s. We're doing kind of an 80s tribute show tonight. Of course, rest in peace. We lost Eddie Van Halen this week.
Eddie Van Halen, yeah, he passed away.
Started actually in the 70s, 1978, but the album 1984 was a huge album. Had a jump and a lot of stuff on there. So
it's not very often that a band, no matter what generation or what era it is, has two frontmen in its time and is super successful with both of them. Van Halen was one of those with David Lee Roth and then later Sammy Hagar.
I saw Van Halen in Oklahoma City. I want to say like 1991, 92. Hagar was the lead singer, and they were oh my gosh, it was one of the best shows that I remember that show to this day. It was just an amazing show. Sammy Hagar. A
lot of energy.
It was a fantastic show. Of course, they were loud and they were drunk. On stage a little bit, but it was a very, very good fun show, and it was a lot of fun. And it was worth the drive to Oklahoma City. I was in a band then and was on the road, and we just happened to be in Oklahoma City and happened to catch that show. It was amazing.
That's awesome. My mom, she grew up at the time that Van Halen was starting out in the San Gabriel Valley, right. And she went to those shows when they were in the backyards, like high school backyards, school kids stuff. And, she wasn't really, ooh and ahhed with the whole Van Halen era, right. Because as she puts it, shout out to my mom. I think she's watching tonight. It was that's just what it was. That's just the way we rolled back then, Andrew. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry. I didn't have the opportunity to grow up with super world famous superstars like you did, but different era, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's there's just a lot. Everybody has their own era and everybody has their own thing. Back, like Frank Sinatra and some of those guys were huge in the 50s and 60s and all those days. So you're going to run across those kind of everybody has their own huge stars. Every era has there's a lot of huge stars now. that are very popular right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, we were talking about the Kardashians a few weeks ago. They're huge.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where you always get different superstars in different decades, and people have to adapt, I guess, in a way. I mean, things change. I mean, things have changed, through the years. 80s still sticks around, though. I mean, that's kind of like, when I was a younger kid, 60s was huge still. And to be honest with you, a lot of 60s songs are still huge.
They're happening, yeah.
They stand the test of time. And Eddie Van Halen is one of those groups that... Van Halen was one of those groups that stood the test of time. I mean, and this was not just a death. This was a huge loss to the music world.
In this era, I feel like we lost our Beethoven, right? So there's only so many people that really have a staple sound, look, and feel in the music industry. Prince, Michael Jackson, Slash. Eddie Van Halen was also in that list, and
right.
Not just rock music, but if you look at music across the board, I don't care if it's country, I don't care if it's rock, I don't care if it's pop. People that play guitar, there's a huge chance Eddie Van Halen had some influence in them in their life of some kind. Could you imagine if Van Halen wasn't a thing, right? Could you imagine how many people probably would not have been inspired to go into music? Think about that. That's how dramatic. That's like the ripple effect, right? How one person could totally just change the course of a direction. In this case, with music.
It's true. That's very true, because Van Halen has really influenced a lot of people. I was talking yesterday. I played with a band up in Big Bear, and the guitar player Joe Eifert, who also plays in my band, he was influenced by Van Halen. I think every guitar player at some point in their life, young or old, has been influenced by Van Halen in some way. Eddie Van Halen was he created a sound that, and not many people. I mean, people do, duplicate it and try to emulate it or whatever the case is, but that sound. Oh gosh, he just and I see videos of him. He just makes it look so easy. He just does it. He's just so good at it. He was just so good at it.
He just touches it, and it's magic, right?
It's just something that's you have to be in awe to see. It's very crazy indeed. I mean, he was just a staple in this time from the late 70s all the way to now. And they did a tour a few years ago, and that was it. They command crowds. They just drew crowds in. Just like, the Eagles are still around, and even though Glenn Frey from the Eagles was another huge influence on me, especially. I loved Glenn Frey. I love the Eagles. And they still, to this day, even though they have Vince Gill with them now, who was also a big country star, and he still is. Mm-hmm. And, Deacon Frey, Glenn Frey's son, they draw, their concerts are drawing huge crowds. As a matter of fact, the Eagles have a new album coming out live at the Forum in just a couple of days of all their greatest hits, but it's, all the current singers singing. I mean, it's a great album, and it's already got pre-orders like crazy. I mean, this kind of music stands the test of time. It just does, And so we're glad to talk about Eddie Van Halen. We're glad to talk about a lot of people today, and we're excited because why, Andrew? Why are we excited today?
Because we're not doing politics. The world is not
fly.
No, I do not. That was good stuff, though. I mean, the meme kind of wrote itself. It's just one of those things. I've always believed God has a sense of humor, and it definitely was there that night for the debate.
Well, I guess we'll discuss that later on. Yes, but it is kind of funny. I mean, there are things that are funny. I mean, and some petty things. I put a petty thing on my Facebook the other day in regards to that. But
you literally wrote "boo" in my comment section.
I know. It was a corny joke. I mean, I could relate you to other people who do podcasts right now, but I won't. But I think you know what I'm talking about. But
I think I do.
But anyway, I was just, it was. I mean, it's true though. I mean, this whole thing is just ridiculous sometimes, and
it looks like our guest is having technical difficulties getting into the chat.
We have one already in the chat.
Do we? So
I'm bringing him in right now, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Well, there's another one that's
look at that. There, guy with that hair
having issues. John is having issues.
Of course he is.
John always has issues.
Is it a technology thing? Like, is it a tech barrier? I don't know.
Oh, you're already streaming live. Look at you guys.
Yeah, look at that.
All right.
Oh my gosh, somebody that has better hair than I do. Look at that.
I just have more product.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
John learned how to work a camera. There he is. Oh, there he is.
Do you see it now? Is John in here?
He's here.
This is exciting. So, all right. Well, it's an 80s night, and we kind of wanted to do right by doing our 2 cents for Eddie Van Halen. So why not get some of the biggest musicians and some of the biggest bands of the 80s? You guys realize that
these guys first. What do you say?
What? What'd you say?
Let's introduce these guys first.
Okay. You go ahead. Okay,
well, the guy with the big hair right there and the little beard and everything, he looks like a flock of seagulls, doesn't he?
Yeah, you got me there. You snagged me. Yeah, Kevin Rankin.
That's Kevin Rankin right there, ladies and gentlemen. Make some noise for Kevin Rankin right there.
Thank you, guys.
We're so glad to have you on.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for asking.
I know who doesn't know how to run a camera, but he helped me set this whole thing up. From the Naked Eyes, ladies and gentlemen, and a good drummer friend of mine, Mr. John Poley, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey-yo.
Happy to see you, buddy.
My brother.
We're glad you guys are here.
Yeah, this is exciting. I mean, tell your manager thanks. Times must be that bad if you're doing our podcast. I'm just saying.
All right, let me thank my manager.
This is great. You guys, you realize like your songs are like part of some of the biggest teen 80s and 90s movies, right? Like when those type of movies or those type of styles come on, like your songs are somewhere in those movies. I don't know, they're timeless, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's Josh right there.
Oh, did we get him? Is he on now?
Josh.
Do we have everybody now?
I think we have everybody.
That's exciting. It actually worked.
It did actually.
See, what happened was Andrew.
Yeah.
You mentioned movies, and then Josh appears.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because the Wang Chung songs are probably more than anything else.
It's like saying Beetlejuice 3 times, and he just appears.
That's right. Yeah.
Say hi to Josh, everybody. Make some noise for Josh.
Josh Thompson, Wang Chung and Cutting Crew.
Thompson, that's right. Josh Thompson with Wang Chung and the Cutting Crew.
Oh, how are you guys?
I just died. I'm auditioning now, Josh. I do that song in karaoke. I want you to know that. I love that song.
He also does Toxic by Britney Spears, but no one's judging.
I do that song. I do.
No one's judging.
So crazy crowds.
So I mean, how's it going for you guys? You guys are like iconic 80s rock stars. Like, what do you guys do during a pandemic?
Anybody?
Here's my suggestion. You're going to have to point because drummers, we can only count to 4. There are 5 people on the screen here, and so, but I was laughing because you said that we're iconic 80s rock stars. So having, I think the collective 3 drummers that you're talking to today, having written 0 of those huge iconic 80s hits, means that every time one of those songs comes on, you celebrate it because it's an opportunity for you to kind of relive and everybody else to relive the moments that you're playing on stage. And we get a chance to do that. And you're celebrating the fact that your boss gets a couple of pennies in his pocket every time. Right. So right. If you guys are like me, and we've talked about this before, then, when they say, "Oh, how long have you been in that band?" You want to say, but yeah, since 1981 in Liverpool, but that's not the case. So,
hey, what's really sad is when they assume that you're one of the originals, and you're like, "How old do I look?"
Right.
Yeah. Wow, 67. You look fantastic for 67 years old.
Josh, how long have you been playing with Wang Chung?
About 7 years. Yeah, it's been about 7 to start. John Poley and I actually did our first shows with our respective bands together in Atlantic City. Nice. So it's been 7 years.
And John, how long have you been with the Naked Eyes? Same,
yeah. Like Josh said, we started together. So our first gigs were the same gig.
First gig. Let me ask you guys. So when you're just like, well, I guess not right now because of the pandemic, but let's pre-pandemic, when you're out, like, you know, you're at a bar, lounge, whatever, you know, some event, and someone's doing a cover of one of these songs that you guys have done so many times, do you sit there and just kind of like critique it, or do you try to get out of the room like, not this song again? I'm not doing music at the moment. Like, how do you guys do that when you identify somebody doing the song that you guys drum?
Kevin, go ahead and give us that. Yours is like one of the most popular songs. I mean, people do this song all the time. I hear people do this song. It's very, very popular. So, what's your take on that, Kevin?
Are you talking about Iran or?
Yeah, Iran.
Yeah, I think you know, there is a sense of pride for sure. You know, I think you're excited about it because we grew up, or at least I grew up, celebrating the songs. Man, I was a big fan of all the bands that we tour with. So the Wang Chung stuff and Naked Eyes and Flock of Seagulls. I was with Animotion prior to that for 15 years. And so, you know, I roller skated to those songs when we were in junior high school, you know, and I tell my bandmates about that for me, it's almost like getting to play with your heroes and then getting to know your heroes, because all the other bands we tour with become family. Like you can see, the three amigos here, my two brothers are somewhat like blood relatives to me. I just can't wait to get back on the road. It's exciting for me to be out touring with my band to see these guys as it is to do our own shows, because there's just, you know, there's some kind of synergy that we have too. Backstage, we've all been through a lot of similar experiences and how we got here and what we go through on the road. And so, you know, there's probably stuff that we couldn't talk about on your podcast that, but
I'm not going to stop you, you know.
Yeah. You know what?
Anything you say here stays here. Promise.
For me, I've got to tell you, I am so proud to be doing these songs because they bring so much joy to people. They bring joy to me, you know, and so I just pinch myself almost every time I'm on stage.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. What about you, Josh? What do you think, man?
Oh, it doesn't. Anytime I hear any of these songs, whether it's on the radio or if it's another band that's playing them, it's fantastic because it's wonderful music. And yeah, I've actually seen quite a few people cover these songs at karaoke or you know, some sort of local bar, and it's fantastic. I love it. It doesn't bother me at all. I never get sick and tired of playing it. If I did, I feel like it would be time for me to maybe move on. Right, you know what I mean? Right. Like,
so John, like, what about you? But like when you hear it though, like, do you say, "Hey, I'm the guy that drums that song," or you just appreciate the moment?
I appreciate the moment. Yeah. If I'm with friends, they will typically do that. But like Kevin said, I was like, dude, I'm not an original member of Wang Chung. So they're going to be like, oh, okay, good for you. Like, right. You know what I mean? And some people care, some people don't. But no, I never tell anybody.
Well, that, you know, AC/DC's had like 30 or 40 people in their band over the years. So, I mean,
sure.
That's the way it is with bands nowadays, though. I mean, I play in bands, and the musicians are always trying to just work, I think, a lot more or less, you know, nowadays. I mean, Rich Redmond, I don't know if you know, you guys probably know who Rich Redmond is, right? He told me, I went to some of his clinics in L.A., and he said that, you know, basically you don't want to turn anything down. If you get offered anything, just work. Just, you know, the whole idea is to work. Don't turn anything down. You know, of course, the guy makes you know, he plays a cowbell, one tink on a cowbell makes $100 per note, you know, something like that. But I mean, that's the whole idea now. I mean, John, I've known John for quite some time now, and he plays with a Miami Sound Machine tribute band, and he was doing some touring with the Naked Eyes earlier. Was it earlier this year that you were doing it before the pandemic hit? Because I saw some dates that you guys were playing, John.
We did some local gigs. There's a series of clubs out here, the Canyon Club.
Canyon Club.
Yeah. So we did there's 4 of them. They have other venues as well, but those 4, we did those the end of last year and the beginning of the year. Yeah.
Right. I saw that, and you know, John and I chat quite a bit. Off camera and off, you know, when he's off, we kind of just, you're a very complimentary man. I appreciate all the compliments you give me, by the way.
On you deserve them.
Play stuff. But, you know, I mean, what about you guys? Were you guys working at all before the pandemic? I mean, I'm sure you were, but when did you guys finally stop working, have to stop working, or did you? I mean, are you still working some anywhere at all, or doing anything, or just, is it just all shut down for you guys right now?
Josh. Oh, you want me to go? Okay.
Okay.
I forgot about that.
It's okay. Yeah, no. In fact, I was. I'm trying to find ways that we can raise our hand or. Right. So February 22nd, 23rd, I was up in Canada doing shows, and that was the last bit of touring I had done at all. Playing, I hadn't played drums since February. Last week, I was in the studio with Mike Skill of the Romantics, and that was the first time that I actually got to sit down and lay down some tracks. And
how did it feel?
I will say, it was cathartic. It was emotional because I've never gone that much time in my entire life, since I was a high schooler, and I just didn't have it in my heart to play at home. I've got drums within a foot of me right now, and I thrive on playing with musicians. I thrive on being on stage in a band, and I just can't stand to play at home. It just drives me nuts. And
wow.
It's it's a horrible thing, a horrible, trait. But when I sit down, I don't have the that in my heart anymore. And so I was, aside from being, the financial impact from COVID and all the, I really thrive on human connectivity. I'm a hugger. And so I miss people. And so without playing drums with a band on stage, I started to go a little crazy. And I'm actually going to join a band tomorrow on stage at a venue that they've asked me to come up and be sort of a guest. And I felt strange about it, to be honest with you, because I've had a lot of friends that have gone and done one-off gigs and they've gotten sick. And it's one thing if a venue can provide something, some distance and people can be healthy and all that. But I don't see a lot of those clubs taking it seriously enough to really protect the people that are there. I'm not so much worried about myself. I feel kind of like I'm contributing to that. And so I'm conflicted, but I can't wait to play. I'm excited about it. I'm doing more sessions on Sunday. So I'm kind of getting my feet back into it again. But I started doing a podcast, because I needed to have the connectivity. And so that's the only way that I've sort of saved any of my sanity at all. So
what's your podcast about?
It's called All Access Live with Kevin Rankin, and it was set up for me just to be backstage with my bandmates. I had a guitarist who lives in Toronto, and our singer lives in Liverpool, bass player lives in San Diego, and our guitarist said, let's just do a Facebook Live and answer some questions from people that normally would be seeing us on shows right now. And so we did the Facebook Live thing, people chimed in. And Jennifer Batten, if you remember her from the Michael Jackson days and the Jeff Beck era, the big platinum blonde mohawk, right. I play with her locally. She said, you know what, you should really consider doing this as a podcast. You seem natural with it. People seem to really get something out of it. And I said, I don't know that I have anything to say. Why don't you come and do it with me? And we'll see how it goes. And 126 or 7 episodes since May.
You're
later.
Natural.
Well, it became an addiction, right? So I go sort of backstage with musicians and actors and actresses and visionaries, people that are inspiring to me and to other people. A lot of them have been people from that genre of music that we're playing. So both guests here, John Poley and Josh Thompson, are friends and guests of mine. And I had Wang Chung on a couple of hours ago. Nick Feldman and Jack Hughes came on and talked about Jack's newest record. I did an interview with When in Rome's Clive Farrington and Andrew Mann a bit ago this morning. But a lot of drummers, tons of drummers. Todd Zuckerman, Kenny Aronoff, goes on, Nate Morton, just incredible drums. And a lot of it has just been, we're hanging out just like we're doing right now. We're talking about any projects they might have and where they find inspiration, because I think at this point people need an escape, and so we're trying to find ways to inspire. And
that's awesome.
I'm excited.
That's kind of like us. We also, Kevin or Andrew and I started our podcast in April, just on my birthday, as a matter of fact. It was April 24th. And he works in television and radio, and I've worked in radio for a long time. Plus, I'm a musician as well. As you can see, I play drums as well.
I see that kid.
I guitar and I play bass and a little piano, a little bit of everything. But same thing. We were just like, this pandemic we got to do something during this pandemic. We have to do something because it's just, it's not, there. I can't stand around. I can't stand around. I can't stand around. I need to do something, anything to get my mind off everything that's going on,
Right.
So we started this, and it's actually been very successful for us, and it's been really good. We're getting quite a few followers, and it's really good. And we had I don't know if I told you this. I told John probably a few weeks ago. We had Linda and Jody Rocco on from Milli Vanilli. They were the actual original singers for Milli Vanilli, and I worked in Las Vegas and. With Linda with Jody Rocco, she was working there, and she's still there. And then Linda's still in Germany, and we had to get all the times going on, everything. It's a lot of fun, and to have you guys on as well, it means a lot to us because we're the little guys, but you guys have been around.
Well, I mean, Kevin is, stuff, hey, Kevin, when you decide to do a series on podcasters on your podcast, you just let us know, and we'll be your honored, inspiring guest.
I would love that. Yeah. The fact that you're musicians as well, and you've worked together in communications, it's that any myriad of things can go wrong, So we had technology issues yesterday. Dave Aberzees from Pearl Jam was going to be on from somewhere very far east, and they cut the internet connectivity. So we sat for half an hour waiting for him to come on live, and everybody that joined in was twiddling their thumbs, and I was engaged in chat, and I realized I'm a chatty boy. I talk way too much, but it's really tough for me to stall for half an hour. And so
John's being so quiet. He's just sitting there like a good little boy with his Crush shirt on, just being a nice guy tonight. He's not really saying too much.
He's hiding in the corner over there.
But he's got his drums in the background. Were you playing something earlier?
Well, this is about when I did Kevin's podcast. I was at my studio, and 3/4 of the way into it, drummer showed up next door and started banging away.
That's right.
I thought, I'm not going to do that again. So I'm at my home quarters that does have an electronic kit, and of course all these beautiful snare drums in the background there. So
color coordinated too. I like the arrangement there. That's nice.
Yeah.
And Josh, you're in Atlanta tonight. Josh is in Atlanta tonight, right?
I technically Macon, Georgia, which is a little south of Atlanta.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a disc jockey in Birmingham, Alabama, and I've been to all over.
Oh, wow.
Around for a long time. So
it's a whole other world up here.
Yeah, a little different. So you're there for a family event? Is that what the deal is there?
My brother and his family live up here, and I actually haven't seen them in a long time. So yeah, we took a little family trip. All of us siblings are here hanging out. So you can hear the cicadas in the background.
Hear 'em.
Making noise.
I just heard a little twang in your voice right there. It already stuck.
You have to say
Georgia.
You have to say cicadas like you're in the South.
Mike in Georgia.
Oh, I thought
Mike in
Georgia.
They might. I don't know. They're either cicadas or crickets. I think they're cicadas. But
so let me ask you, all of you guys, this question. I'll start with you first, Josh, this round. Or actually, I'll start with John this round. How about that? We all know, I'm sure we all loved Eddie Van Halen. Did Eddie Van Halen have any influence on you guys in any way? John, how about you first?
Well, of course. I'm
sure Alex Van Halen did, obviously, at some point. But
I didn't get Alex at first, and then I had to learn some songs, and I was like, holy crap, this guy's got some groove going.
Yeah.
It's so hard to nail. Like, whenever I do cover music, I just try to get the feel of whatever I'm learning, and needing to perform. And Alex was a trick, man. He was definitely hard to nail that feel.
He plays some crazy stuff. I've heard some stuff, especially like "Hot for Teacher" and some of those things. Oh my God, it's just
forget about it.
It's just amazing. It's just overflowing. What about you, Josh? What do you think, man?
It's funny. I was talking to my brother-in-law, Doug. It was sort of the person that kind of introduced me to rock and roll. Because I was actually born in '82, so I'm dating myself here a little bit. And so I didn't grow up listening to any secular music because my dad was a minister. And so my brother-in-law came into the family and actually introduced me. He's like, dude, you got to stop listening to this crap and start listening to some good stuff. So Van Halen was like really, I didn't really dive deep into them to be honest with you. But yeah, Hot for Teacher as a drummer, I was like, that's really cool. And I need to learn how to do that. So, but we've actually been listening to some Van Halen today, because I told Doug, I was like, man, I feel bad because Eddie Van Halen, it's like he, you know, all of the stuff he did for Michael Jackson was absolutely phenomenal. So I'm like, I know he's great, but I just didn't dive into Van Halen the way most people have. And it's funny because on the internet, people are like mourning Eddie Van Halen. Right. Like they are more so than like a lot of other musicians that have passed recently. And I was like, it makes me wonder, I'm like, man, what am I missing? So I'm actually going to start doing some real deep Van Halen deep dives here in the future to kind of
dive her down.
Yeah, that's right. That's what everyone keeps saying, man. It's like,
that's what I was saying earlier to Andrew before you guys came on, is that, you know, Eddie Van Halen, it's a loss. It's not like a regular loss. It's like people are actually pulled over in their cars. A bass player I know I worked with yesterday, he said he pulled over in his car and he was so shocked that tears welled up in his eyes. And that he just had to stop the car. And he said he looked over and there was a couple of other people in cars that just were doing the same thing. This was a huge loss in the music world. This guy was just a pioneer, if you will, for the guitar player. And I honestly, I think Alex Van Halen's a pioneer drummer too. If you really go back and listen to the stuff that he's recorded, these guys are just pioneers. They're phenomenal powerhouse musicians. Kevin, what do you think about that?
Josh, I'll tell you what you're missing. Yeah, man. To me, as drummers, you know, when Neil Peart died earlier this year, it affected the whole musical community in such a huge way. If you were a drummer and you grew up, you know, in the 70s, 80s, and maybe 90s, you grew up kind of in two schools of rock thought. It was either Neil Peart or John Bonham. And for me, I was the John Bonham camp, but I just, I became so respectful of Peart because my son he educated me on the magic of Neil. With Eddie Van Halen, I remember every single first experience that I had when I heard a Van Halen tune, every iteration of the band. I saw every lineup change when I grew up in Montana and really out in the woods. Yeah, that was that's for a different podcast, man. But I had this real hip cousin in Chicago, and his dad, my uncle, was this incredible jazz drummer in Chicago, and so he had this massive Ludwig kit, big rototoms, very Alex Van Halen like. And I woke up to this my cousin blasting Unchained at the loudest volume. And I was so mesmerized by that guitar intro. And so that was on the Fair Warning record. Fair Warning became my favorite Van Halen album. I saw a bunch of different tours. I saw them with Sammy Hagar several times, 1988 Monsters of Rock tour, where I'd travel several states away to go and migrate. And it wasn't just because of Van Halen. But they were so incredible live. And what you saw was that Eddie was so much more than a guitar player. You know, the reason that the world mourns in such a way is that his songwriting was so unique. And it wasn't just the two-handed tapping thing that he kind of got known for from the Beat It solo on Michael Jackson. He was this guy that was a virtuoso pianist. You know, he could play piano when he was 2, and he started off as a drummer, you know, and the whole reason that his rhythmic style is so unique is because he started off as an incredible drummer. And then he got tired of that, and they just switched. He and his brother switched. And I think if it weren't for Eddie Van Halen, Alex Van Halen would be regarded as one of the greatest rock drummers of all time. He's such an incredible drummer, but he doesn't get any of the recognition he's due. You talked about covering their stuff. You really look at the nuances from Alex Van Halen. It is mind-blowing how incredible that drummer was. And the fact that he and his brother had this, they had this thing, the two of them, you know, that when you'd see them live, this unspoken thing. So Josh, if you want to get a taste of just their stuff, it's later in the career. Sammy Hagar was already the singer for the band, but if you go back, there's a really famous concert, Live Without a Net, that you can watch. And although Sammy is singing for the band at that time, and Eddie Van Halen's playing, he combined all of his solos into one on that solo. It's a 15-minute guitar solo, and it's not one. That's one thing. Most drummers, when they start off on a drum solo at a concert, people are like, "Oh, time to go get a beer," and they head off to the merch stand, and they, They never did that for Neil Peart when you go to a Rush show, and they certainly never went to go get a drink when Eddie Van Halen did his solo at a guitar at a concert. And on a personal note, I talked about playing with Jennifer Batten, and she lives here in Portland. When she first moved here 15 years ago, I started playing with her, and I was so blown away by her legacy. But she told me these great stories about not only Michael Jackson, but she said, if it wasn't for Eddie Van Halen's solo on Beat It, I wouldn't have a house. Eddie Van Halen and that solo bought me a home, because she learned that for her audition for Michael Jackson. And that's what got her the gig. And she has to play every show, every clinic. Everybody wants to hear the solo. She breaks it down. She's got a great video on her podcast where she breaks down the solo that she posted 2 days ago when he passed away. And the impact that he had, it's the music that people grew up with and where they were at, their first dates, their first jobs, the first road trips that they ever had right out of high school. And all of those people had those experiences at the same time. So the world that's mourning, Josh, it's just maybe just that generation, a couple of years older, maybe, and not just the fact that they were in a secular world and you were, a little bit stifled there, but it's a big deal, man. I'm floored by it as well. It was a tough loss. And I will just add to that. Sorry, guys, I don't mean to be so chatty, but the Eddie Van Halen thing, I went to go see Van Halen with Jennifer Batten. She took me one of the last times that they came through, just before Dave returned to sing for the band, before David Lee Roth. But Jennifer and I were going to go, she was going to go back and talk to him. I was excited to be there with her. And we were watching from the side of the stage, and he had just had a third of his tongue taken out from his cancer. And she was so disappointed because he is still sitting there smoking on stage, right backstage when he was getting ready to go on. And she said, how can he not realize that that's what it is? And he had said, you guys probably know that the rumor, or his take on it, was that it was the copper picks that he held in his mouth while he was tapping his solos. And so he always had a copper pick hanging out of his mouth. And he said that's what caused his cancer.
It's possible. I mean,
oh yeah, I mean, I'm not a doctor. It certainly could be, but smoking wasn't helping, and he just had his tongue taken out. So I would have thought, if that wasn't a come to Jesus meeting and time to stop doing cancer, driven activities, but it's unfortunate. Even though we all knew that he had cancer, it's 65 is way too soon. And that the heartbreaking things are watching tweets from his son, losing his dad, and that's the gut punch right there.
I agree with you. 65 is way too soon, and he could have probably given us a lot more music in the future. Just like Mick Jagger and Paul McCartney. These guys have been around for a long time, and they give us great music. And I remember seeing I've seen videos of Van Halen. He keeps that guitar. He would stick it. He would stick the cigarette in the neck of his guitar, below the neck there, and he did that a lot. That was his thing. And he battled that cancer for 20 years, and it's amazing how he still did it and still lived to play and do all those things. But it's still, I think the cigarettes, smoking and doing that was probably, copper picks. I guess I could see that, but I think a combination of both, maybe the cigarettes and the copper picks, probably was what really the whole thing. Yeah. It's sad. It's very sad.
So we do have a question in the chat room for these guys. Heather is asking, all three of you were on the inaugural 80s cruise. What was your best memory?
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
This one's for you, Heather. Meeting you.
That's nice.
We can all have.
That's not a joke. Actually, it was her getting shushed at our show.
Did they shush her?
Yeah, she was talking with her friend while we were getting ready to start, and Pete just looked at her and just went, shh.
Oh, that's funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
so
it was awesome.
There's a noisy girl then, right? She's very noisy.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's so funny.
Josh, how about your favorite memory of that show?
It's sort of a two-parter. I got to meet Don Was on that cruise, because Was Not was playing, right. Which is so fun. But I think one of my most fond fondest memories.
Where'd it go? Where'd the cruise go?
I think it started off in Miami. Went to St. Thomas, St. Croix, right? Kevin.
That was the second one. So Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, St. John, St. Thomas.
That's right.
Puerto Rico.
That's Puerto Rico.
Turks and Caicos Islands.
Puerto Rico is actually where Wang Chung got on the cruise.
Oh, that's right.
We played a show in Miami, and then they didn't let us get on the cruise right away. We had to fly to Puerto Rico and wait there for 4 days for the cruise to come pick us up. So we were on the latter half of the cruise. But no, I enjoyed getting to see Don Was, but also I had to get ready because the timing of it. Who was it? Oh, Kool and the Gang were playing in the auditorium, and they broadcasted the shows, and I was bummed out because I couldn't see them because I had to hurry up and get ready because we had to be at stage. But they broadcast it in our rooms, and you could watch it live on your television right there in your room. And I remember I remember turning it up and just like dancing to Kool and the Gang as I was getting ready, and it was just such a fun moment. I love that. They're just like get down on it, and I'm just like dancing around in my room. That was a lot of fun. That was a great time.
Another loss this month too. Ronald Bell from the Kool and the Gang. I mean, another loss. It's another pioneer of music. He was a pioneer. He created some great stuff.
I got a question. You guys are like, professionals. So like, where do you? I know, right? Where do you see this? Like, no one knows. It's uncharted territory. Like, where do you see the future of live concerts going? Like, do you think it's going to be like drive-in like theaters, like movies? Do you think it's gonna get to that? Do you think we'll ever go back to how things were last year? Like, how do you foresee it going forward?
Who wants to take that one first?
I'll take it.
There you go.
Go ahead, John.
So I've done a few shows here and there since this all happened, and people are dying to get out there and party and have fun and mix with each other. So once we get the all clear, I think it's going to look pretty much like it looked before.
Josh?
Yeah, I think so too. I think there are certain things that just like society, we as human beings just aren't willing to give up, and live music in the way that we're used to experiencing it is something that we're never going to give up. Now, it's going to be a while before we get back to it like it was, no doubt. At least that's just my own personal opinion. But yeah, I think that there's not going to be these concerts in the future where like every 6 feet there's a person. It's just not going to happen. No. We will. I feel like if it comes down to it, we'd rather die. than experience being next to someone, at a live concert. So
here's what I think. I've heard, a lot of the bars are closed, and we live in San Bernardino County. Andrew and I do, and a lot of the bars are closed up here. But I do believe a lot of, and any kind of venue. I mean, I've seen. If you go to Ticketmaster, some of these shows are already booked for 2021. A lot of shows booked for 2021 already. And the thing is that I feel that everybody's going like, oh, it's so bad. The economy right now, people are losing jobs and losing money and this, that, and the other. And people are sadly, a lot of places have closed down, restaurants and bars that may not come back open. But I do believe that when this whole thing goes away, that it's just going to go with all the music and everything. I mean, all the bands are gonna, and all the DJs, everybody's gonna be working immediately. I mean, I don't think they're gonna be calling, and we're gonna, because my band, I'm not like you guys, of course, but I mean, my band plays 70 to 100 dates a year easily, and sometimes even more. I had another band before, we did 120, 140 dates sometimes a year, and that's local stuff. That's just around the Los Angeles area, Las Vegas, and those places I played. And I just feel that you're right, John. These people are tired. They're tired of they're ready to get out. They don't want to be sitting around doing this forever, and I don't think they're going to stand 6 feet apart.
Do you guys think like the approach, like how you would normally do concerts and tours, like do you think you'll think twice in regards to just how like you present yourself, like before the show, during the show, after the show? Like are you more self-aware, I guess is the question, or do you feel like you'll end up being more self-aware because of what's happening?
John, go ahead. Shaking your
head. No, because I'm like Kevin, maybe not as much so. Kevin Rankin, that is, Kevy Metal, as we'll say. I'm a hugger, you know, and I miss that interaction. And
yeah, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know. You see, okay, so we have like a wine bar that is kind of like a music lounge locally. And I had gone out for the first time, I think at the beginning of September, actually. I went out and I wanted to, it was the first time going out since like the end of February. So I went out and they know me there and they asked me to come up and sing a couple songs and stuff. And I did, you know, and in the moment though, I could not stop thinking the entire time, I need to wash my hand. I need to be more in my head. I need to be more self-conscious shaking people's hands. That was literally the first time I shook someone's hand. I'm not making this up, in like 8 months. It was bothersome to me. And then I acknowledged like, oh my God, like, why is it bothering me so much? Oh my God, is this like the future? Oh my God. Oh my God. Like
that's today though, right? Today, everything is crazy. Tomorrow, when we're out gigging, it's going to be assumed that everything is safe.
But I feel like taking those precautions, like curbing myself, like elbow bumping instead of shaking hands, it's almost like a security blanket now. Like I'm okay with that. Like I'm getting at a point now where I can accept that and be fine with it.
Well, we better not ever meet, Andrew, because I'm giving you a big ass hug.
Yeah, being
Stranger
fine with
danger.
That. It's if it's inherent, you know, it's in part of your personality. Getting used to that and accustomed to that is tough to imagine, right? You know, for me, I think that was one of the tougher things for me. You know, when I talked to these people on my podcast, I was hearing this sense of foreboding, you know, longing. They were just really missing what gave them identity. You know, as musicians, we identity is a huge part of our connection on stage, and I started to lose a little bit of faith when the timeline gets pushed back. You know, when I look at venues that would say, oh, you know what, we're going to throw caution to the wind. We're going to hold these festivals in the Midwest. And then friends would go, they'd come back with COVID and realize it's just, you know, I applaud these places for taking a risk and getting it, you know, giving it a shot. But if they just didn't take precautions now, then, you know, there are some people that just don't take it serious enough. And I was one of those people that just did not expect it to go the way that it did. You know, I really didn't. I poo-pooed it. I laughed about it. First, I thought, you know, nobody's going to stop me from giving a hug. And then lost a couple people to COVID. And we look at it now, and as things keep getting pushed back farther and farther and farther, the timeline for our return to our identity gets pushed back. And I get so encouraged, like watching Josh doing these shows. He's been able to do some really, really cool shows, solo shows for people that you know, it's awesome for me in one respect, because as a fan of these guys, I get to watch their shows online. And you asked about the future. I certainly see that. I don't think that the streaming and online broadcast thing is going to go away. I think, you know, we'll return to stage in some capacity, but I think the opportunity for bands to be able to play with a streaming platform is certainly going to stick around. It's not going to, that part's not going away, because there are some people that are just going to be Netflix, you know, they're going to sit in their pajamas and watch bands from the comfort of their own home, where they know that they can be in their bubble. And that's a drag for us that we really need to have people. We need feedback from people on stage. You know, when you're at a drive-in concert and all you get for response is honks, you know, that's not what I want, you know, but, and so I would imagine if you fast forwarded a year, 2 years after, you know, a successful vaccine comes in and people feel like, okay, we've got this cornered and we don't want to get used to elbow bumps. You know, we need, man, I mean, the human connection is really is key. And so maybe people will, maybe they'll let down their guard a little bit, you know, but I just, I don't want to be satisfied in a world that we have elbow bumps and drive-in concerts. You know, that's just not the world that I started playing music in. And I need to have eye contact with people in the crowd. I want to be face to face with my bandmates on stage. And I want to hear and feel and smell the venues. You know, that's just what I miss so much. And
yeah, if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, I have a complete more higher respect and understanding for Howie Mandel now. So
right.
I get it. I totally get how he lives his life now. Like, wow, this is hard stuff. You mentioned maybe a year or two vaccine, and I just wanted to mention that it was just this last week. It was announced Broadway's decided to postpone now until May of 2021. So if that's any idea, because that's live entertainment, you know, live stage, live theater, if that's any indication of where things might be, we're at least looking going into the summer of next year, you know, before we see what normalcy looks like again, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I got to say one thing. Being a local guy, I've been very blessed, actually. I've had my band has been actually working quite a few dates, which is, you know, I feel lucky, but again, at the same time, I'm kind of like Andrew, but then I'm like John here as well. I'm torn. I'm torn because I'm the drummer and I sit behind everybody, and as
a natural barrier.
As the lead singer says, I'm bringing up the rear, is what she always says. So, but you know, I mean, honestly, I mean, all that aerosol supposedly, I guess, is going out that way, I guess, or what? It's not. You know, I'm behind them. But the thing is, a lot of the people don't wear a mask at our shows. They don't, and they're still not even really social distancing. There's lots of hugs. There's lots of kisses. There's lots of stuff going on, and then there's a few that wear masks, you know, but mostly. That's not going on. How do you guys feel about that? Do you I mean, John, obviously you don't, you're like, oh, I'm good with it, you know, whatever.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, to Kevin's point about the streaming and not going away. I did a streaming show last month, and I'm going to be doing another one in a couple of weeks here. It was weird because like we did an hour and a half, and between every song, it's just like, you know, the production team was really good and they're clapping and egging us on, but it was not the same.
Right.
We did the same thing too as well. We did a 6-song stream, and it's definitely a lot different. It's kind of
not cool.
As heavy metal there says, we need the human connection. We do need that human connection.
Absolutely.
And, Josh, what about you, man? How do you feel about that whole thing?
In terms of sort of like, am I comfortable with being around people and for playing?
Right.
Yeah, I am. And I think that what the biggest thing that I've learned throughout this whole pandemic is that like you just have to be mindful of how another person of another person's comfort level. Like for instance, like with Andrew, if I met Andrew and I went out to shake his hand and he was like, do you mind elbow? I'm like, yeah, dude, no problem. That's where he's at now.
Well, that's like the NAMM show.
Which isn't a bad thing. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely. But for me, I'm like, oh, no worries. Like he wants to do an elbow, like that's no problem. And you know, so just kind of be more mindful of like where people are at if they don't feel comfortable. And if you don't feel comfortable, you know, stay home. You know, it's hard because I just don't. There's so much uncertainty. It's hard giving projections on something because I just feel like I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I mean, here's what I do know is that as human beings, we have been through much worse than this. So that gives me hope. And we've been through stuff like this before, and we'll get through it. We will. It's just that it's just such a strange time, and it's hard to know like how to behave. But what is happening is I feel like we are being given opportunities to become more considerate of other people and their comfort level. Because if someone is scared, I don't want to poo-poo them just because I'm not scared. I don't want to like belittle them just because I'm not scared. It's like, hey, if you're scared and you want me to stay away from you, I'll totally stay away from you. So it's creating opportunity for understanding and being more compassionate, more considerate for your fellow man. And if like I've been doing some sessions lately, our bass player, his name is James East. His sister is like has horrible immune system, and he has to be very careful about who he surrounds himself with. And so we all wear masks whenever we're around him. So it's just kind of like that stuff. As long as you're just being mindful and considerate of other people, I feel like we're going to get back to this, and we're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, because so you're showing up in person then to do rehearsals, yeah?
To do studio sessions, yeah.
Or studio sessions, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you guys, with your guys' bands appropriately, have you guys looked into, or has it even been considered this whole entire time, doing like online rehearsals with one another, like kind of like this Zoom session? Have you guys even talked about it?
It's impossible.
Yeah.
With the latency and the streaming tool, the audio will blast the that bandwidth. So you smack a snare drum, and all of a sudden you're a full 30-second note or more off from everybody else. It's not, I don't know one tool out there that actually works to real time.
See, as a voice
Kevin could write a book about this.
as a voice actor, we have like Source Connect, right? But we're piping our home studios into an actual studio, right? So I guess it's a little different then, because you're going into a studio versus somebody else's home. So okay, yeah, no, I get it.
Well, you know what? I have not ran into one musician, not one, that has actually, I mean, if they're scared of the virus, they're not really showing it, because I haven't run into one musician who says, if somebody asks me to play, I'm going to play. They have all said, yes, I'm going to play gigs, I'm going to work. I've seen musicians that I wouldn't think would be working. They're out there working. They're trying to do, I mean, no musician is turning work down. I just don't think that, I don't see that. Do you guys see any of that? I don't see any of it.
You know what, man? When you asked earlier, I feel conflicted about going tomorrow to sit in and be a guest with this band tomorrow. Right. I really do. I don't feel like, are you allowed to swear on this podcast? Probably not.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So
don't
you guys,
tongue, that's all I ask.
Josh and John know, man, it's really, really hard for me to say a disparaging thing about anybody. I love the world for the most part. But I get fucking pissed when I see how people can either use social media to justify this, but the fact when I see people not take the virus seriously early on means that it's that much longer before we can all get back to normal. Right. And so when it gets pushed back 6 months, a year and a half, and I think, well, you know what, man, I freaking stayed home for 6 months, right? I put my life on hold, and I shut things down with my kids and tried to explain to them how
old are your kids?
They're 19 and 21.
Okay.
Just so I had a son who
they were 10 and 11 when this started, right?
Right. It feels like it, man. Well, but they went through the high school graduation with no graduation. They went through, no senior proms. They went through, turning 21 and not being able to go out, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And me trying to explain to them, hey, early on, all of their friends said, oh, this thing is such a hoax. It's such bullshit. We don't have to wear a mask. And I'm like, you know what, man? Like, that mentality just is what perpetuates this thing longer, and I don't live in fear, man. I'm telling you, I'm one of the biggest risk takers out there on the planet, but I also think it's disrespectful to everybody else that wants to make a living and wants to be able to go out and live their life. We're going to get there eventually. It just is a little bit of discipline that people need to have, and so I get pissed.
It's a modest way to put it. Little bit of discipline.
But I think, though, I mean, I agree with you on the conflict thing, because here's the conflict. I agree. I think that if people would take it more seriously about the whole virus, and they might just sit down for like 6 months and say, look, I am going to try to be considerate, because if everybody would just say, I'm going to be a little bit more considerate, and maybe this thing would go away a lot faster. That's my opinion about this whole thing. But they're not, and they're like, you're taking away my freedom, and I can't do this and I can't do that. Nobody's freedom is being taken away here. We're just asking you to kind of pull back a little bit, and we're not telling you, for someone to say I'm not going to wear a face mask, so that takes away my freedom. I think I agree with you. I think that's bullshit.
It is.
I think that. you know, if we just would be a little, if everybody would just be a bit more considerate about everything, and you know, this thing might get over faster. I just think
big time. Look at other places in the world where it worked, right? You know, like New Zealand shut it down so fast. Thailand, right? Bangkok. I was in Thailand about this time last year. Thailand is so, especially Bangkok. Oh my God, people are on top of each other, right? Just people live on top of each other. That country shut down for 2 weeks, and the virus was almost entirely eradicated, right? So they shut down travel in and out, but the businesses it was mandatory that all businesses shut down for 14 days. It's not even a month, man. If you sit this thing out for a couple of weeks, you know, if you said everything shut down for 30 days, right, 6-8 months ago, we wouldn't be here right now, you know?
It's true. Kevin, you haven't heard our other episodes, but I have this theory. I'm a very, very smart young person. And I have this theory that America is a child.
Big time.
You meaning America, must burn their hand on the stove after you told them, don't touch the stove. You're going to burn your hand. You got to touch the stove because you must burn your hand before you learn your lesson. That is America.
But here's the thing. You burn your hand once, you're not putting your hand in the stove again. Exactly. America continues to fucking put their hand on the stove over and over. Sorry, that's a tangent. I'm going to give you a funny side of this thing because I want to
make sure it's hot still. That's why we do it.
I have to give you a funny story. John and Josh both were there, witness to this. So I'm a hugger, and unfortunately, my man, I am a sweater. So when I'm on stage, I sweat a disgusting mess. I'm just a fat, sweaty mess. And, you know, it doesn't even matter if I've played sound check yet, man. If I set up my drums and I just prep my stuff, boom, I'm pouring sweat. We did this beautiful gig at the Greek Theater last year, right? So one of the last dates of the tour, man, we're at the Greek Theater. Bucket list item for a bunch of us. We were so excited. Sold out Greek. We've got the Tubes with us on tour, right? So Prairie Prince is out there playing drums, and Josh and I know we're just you know, just like giddy about having this dude around. But I walked out. We did our sound check. I come backstage. Prairie, he's just getting ready to walk on stage, and I say, "Hey, dude, like you're gonna want to bring a fan out there, man. At sound check, it is so brutal." He said, "You know, man, the only time I'm sweaty this entire tour is when you hug me after a gig." Yeah, it's a little. So I should probably be more respectful and courteous to their space. I try to make sure I ask before I go and give somebody a sweaty hug, but you know, it's just.
I'd give anything for one of your sweaty hugs right now.
Poor Prairie. If he contracted coronavirus, it wasn't for me, man. So,
your advice for aspiring musicians since COVID, does any advice as far as like following this crazy lifestyle, like does any of that advice change or get altered at all by this point?
No.
We just
go ahead, John.
I was going to say it's a passion. How do you squash passion? That's not going to happen. If it's in you, it has to come out.
Yeah.
So I would just say to anybody who's young and like wondering if this is a viable thing, yeah, it is. You know, it's an opportunity. I got these snare drums. Every time I walk in this garage, those snare drums are screaming, "Hey, play me, play me." You know, and I'm like, yes, I'm going to be playing you later. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a passion.
I think if people are truly interested in kind of getting into music professionally right now, I'd say, you're the kind of people that need to be in this game. Because if you're interested in doing it now, when there is no glamour, when there is no when the pickings are slim, it's like, yeah, absolutely. So, but I mean, right now, it's like there's probably a lot of people that maybe were interested in music that were kind of half-hearted about it, and I guarantee they probably have given it up. It's like right now, it's tough to be a musician.
Well, there's a lot of bands. There's a lot of bands out there too. I'm sure that they got together and started playing, and then this whole thing broke out, and now they don't have any work, and they're like probably broken up and not doing anything now. And there's the hardcore people like you guys, myself and Andrew, and we all take the opportunity to play, and we're going to do it no matter what. I mean, I know John.
More gigs for us.
That's right. That's right, John.
Tonight, John? Are you in Los Angeles?
I'm sorry.
Are you in Los Angeles tonight?
I am.
The weather's nice, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's around 70 right now.
You're not close to the fires or anything. You've been kind of away from that.
No, I'm in San Pedro, so I'm on the coast.
Okay. Oh, what about you, Kevin? Where are you at tonight?
I'm in Portland. Actually, we just had our share of fires. I got quarantined 2 weeks ago. It was nuts.
Portland. Yeah. You guys get fires and some other interesting activities going on there.
Kevin had to flee for his life a couple weeks ago.
How's it look outside the window right
now? Portland's beautiful, man. I love it. Yeah, the civil unrest that they talk about was
that's it. Yeah.
Did you start all that yourself? Was you the one who coordinated all that together?
I went down and hung out a little bit.
He was beating the deaf drum. That's what he was doing for all of that.
I'm a studier of people, and so I'm always interested.
So you were out there people watching.
I was, yeah. I absolutely was. Whenever there's organizations, kind of together that are voicing their opinion, I like to go down and see what it's all about.
What'd you learn?
Well, when Occupy movement was down, a real prominent thing a couple of years ago, I went down and talked to people. My background in sociology was I like to study human behavior and hear what people think that they're going to affect change by protesting or sitting in. It's a different time than like say the Vietnam War, when we had the sit-ins, right? And there were peaceful protests, and a lot of what's going on right now with racial issues. I'm a privileged white guy in America, man. I mean, it's really tough for me to have any sort of opinion about injustice on my behalf, but I do want to talk to people that have been affected, right? And as drummers, we've got enough of a stigma, right? There are enough things that we deal with. So I wanted to hear from people that felt like they needed their voices heard to be able to make change. And I don't believe in social media entirely. I don't watch the news. I try to find, I get the news that I need to, but I don't like being force-fed negativity, because that stuff's outside of my control. I really have to live my life, sort of with a set of just sort of guidelines of process and try to be grateful for what I have. And so when I see, that there's some stuff going on in Portland, I wanted to go down and see, all right, is what I'm hearing about on social media and in the news really happening?
And what did you find?
I think I saw a vast majority of people that were getting their message diluted or at least mixed by, aggressive fringe people, So, and I know that we don't want to probably go that route in the sort of a political realm, but I watched a ton of amazing families. And one thing I will say, Portland is home to a pretty large homeless population, as are most cities in America. Yep. And I started a nonprofit about 6 years ago to do homeless outreach, thinking I could make some kind of difference and at least just getting to know these people and what brought them on the streets. And in Portland, rents are high. When the economy changes, it's impossible to be able to afford rents. And so a lot of, especially now with the pandemic, people are being pushed out of their places. And I think it's going to get a lot worse. A lot of people are going to be on the streets. And so some of the people that were out there, I wanted to find out what their concerns were. They shut all the homeless shelters down because of COVID. And so the city sort of subsidized this huge encampment of people. And social media was painting it as this Antifa outpost. And I thought, that's crazy. I went down and I talked to all these people that were volunteering from the city and these families, single moms with their kids in these 6 foot fenced in areas were scared to death because these people were going to come down and attack what they thought were Antifa. And these are just people that are displaced home, citizens.
They come down with the pitchforks and then realize, oh, sorry, false alarm.
Yeah.
Walk away.
Metaphorical pitch.
Wow.
Trucks and I just felt like that's the injustice that I can see. And so I want, and some of that was all going on at the same time. It's all part of the same sort of, narrative that there are a lot of people struggling right now. I want to hear what people are struggling from and see if there's anything that you can do with a voice to be able to help them, And yep. Josh's point a little while ago about being considerate and compassionate people at shows kind of goes across the board for our position, as musicians, we're communicating this message of positivity. We're bringing music, which is a lifeblood for so many people. We need to have music in our lives. Those people need music in their lives to feel happy. And the human connection thing is really important. And there's a lot of divisive stuff, right, on social media and out there in the news. If there's any reason that I could go out and play music just so you could communicate a little bit of an escape for a couple of hours to give somebody just some happiness, man, I would probably risk coronavirus every day if I knew that was actually helping,
I was going to ask you, your kids, are they like, do they have aspirations for music? Is that something they do? Or are they like on a completely different course?
Oh man, yeah, John Poley there got to do a drum off with my kid in Vegas a couple years ago. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. My older son's a fantastic hip hop artist, and he started off as a wicked drummer, and then just fell in love with hip hop, and so he's got a couple of albums out, and he is as much a fan of these two other guests of yours. He really considers Josh and John both like, big inspirations to him. And my younger son's a great singer, beautiful singer. He's a huge Beatles fan. He just turned 19, and he's got the voice in the family. So
your kids being Gen Z then, and being raised by a musician, is your wife a musician too, or?
Nope.
Okay.
Well,
having a parent with a musician influence, so a musical family, I guess is what I'm saying. What is their take from that generation? Like how do they see the world now? Aside from the pandemic, but the polarity that our country is. I'm just interested to see like what their take on it would be.
John and Josh, am I capitalizing on your conversation? I'm sorry, buddies.
No, dude. Please go ahead.
Andrew, the question you just asked is a conversation I was having with my kids not 30 seconds before we went on the air today.
Oh, perfect. So you got your homework in.
We, both of my kids handle things differently, but both of them are disillusioned right now with what they see, and they are constantly on social media, both of them. Right. And so their world revolves around what their peers are putting on Snapchat and Instagram. And, now I'm inspired by my youngest son. Like my heroes, in the world are like people that can somehow find tolerance and love for everybody, no matter how douchey they are. Right. So like Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers is like my hero. Right. And my youngest son is like that. He sees where I'm at right now in just outside of Portland is a really strange mix, because Portland is known to be a traditionally pretty progressive liberal city. The rest of the state is very conservative, right? So when we vote, it's almost a 50-50 vote, but the popular vote goes to left, usually the blue state, because there's just a few more people in the more populated areas and college towns. I live in a suburb with a lot of big trucks and a lot of Confederate flags. And it blows my mind.
I didn't know Oregon was a part of the Civil War. That's interesting.
Right. Yeah, they are.
Learn something new every day, right?
There's all sorts of brainwashing that can carry all the way across the country, man. And I just, my kids went to school here. They'd see the Confederate flags on the trucks in the parking lot, and they were like, "Man, is that what is what does that mean to them?" I ask my kids all the time, "What does it mean to you, to see something like that?" And we've got rallies happening almost every night out here on the corners, and it's the political environment is kind of toxic, right? People are kind of at each other's throats, and all you have to do is watch debates, right, and see people interrupting each other and totally just raking each other over the coals. It's embarrassing, to be honest, but I think even John and Josh, we've talked about this a million times. We've all traveled around the world. You see different cultures that are more respectful of each other, no matter what, whether it's a democratic, country, or even, in monarchies and those other sort of oppressed countries, there's still not this kind of thing going on right now.
That's my next question.
It's fed. So when I talk to my kids, I just want them to have conversations. The question what they see, and youngest son is one of those guys that he'll see somebody that could be just so like violently homophobic, racist, intolerant of anybody else, and he finds some way to just give them acceptance. He has no negative words for them. And I just think, man, I just need to be around this kid all the time.
I see a lot of that in the younger generation. Like they may have their set of issues, but they find ways to find like peace of mind and insanity through craziness. And I mean, that's a strength. That's a huge, huge strength to have.
Big time. Yeah, once we're done with the pandemic, all these kids that have had to deal with all this stuff, figuring out how education works, through streaming technologies and being able to navigate the toxic political environment we have right now. When they get through all this, it hopefully will make people so much stronger and more kind, and compassionate, because I think overcoming adversity, right, only makes you stronger, right? Sorry.
Here's a question for all of you guys. During the pandemic, I'm sure you guys have been, I guess it's safe to say, bored at times. So my question to you is, have you discovered any new types of music or artists that you probably wouldn't have had the time to discover prior, since your schedules have dramatically changed this year? Have you discovered anything new in music or anyone new that you're currently into?
There's this amazing new single from Josh Thompson that just came out online. That is something that I would say everybody should go out and buy right now. That, you know what? Here, this is no lie, and I'm not blowing smoke up his butt, but John and I will be the first to tell you that we were floored when all of a sudden Josh comes out from behind the drum kit, and you hear this voice, and you think, okay, that's just not fair.
Is it Phil Collins? Is it Phil Collins status?
Man, I mean, he, like, you know what? He should be getting
I
all
wish
those.
I was Phil Collins status.
Yeah, man. There's a gift that Josh has that I would kill for, man. And there's music coming out from this dude that's it's a blessing from the pandemic. So yes, Josh Thompson music.
Singing drumming? Are you a singing drummer, Josh?
I am a singing drummer, typically not at the same time, because that's actually that's not easy.
I do it at the same time. I'm a
singer. Oh, do you?
Well, yeah.
Oh man, you're like Leon from the band. Man.
I actually do some lead singing, and I play the drums, and I do it. So
it's hard enough staying on time, let alone remembering your vocal lines. Cutting crew is actually a lot more sort of demanding when it comes to backup vocals and playing. Nick Van Eed he relies on me for a lot of specific vocal backup vocals in some of those songs, and I'm telling you, like, there's a couple of them, like on that song Any Color, like there's this like and I'm like, I have to sing a part over that, and it's not easy. And I usually don't hit it. I've
been very blessed. I've been playing drums since 1974. Wow. And I don't know. I've just sang and played all my life, and it comes natural to me. I don't know why. There's not really too many. Every now and then there's some parts, that are difficult, but for the most part, it's not. I can play anything and do runs and rolls and the whole bit, and still continue to sing. And it's pretty crazy that I've been very blessed by that. So to talk to someone else who actually sings and plays is because there's not that many. I mean, you see them, but there's just not that many. And I mean, of course, the great Phil Collins, and but I mean, what about you, John? Do you sing and play at all, or do you just play?
I've done a few. Excuse me. I've sang a few songs here and there, lead, but I do a lot of background vocals. Yes.
Is there any new music or artists you've discovered recently in this pandemic?
No, back to your original question. No, I haven't. I've been focused on building a studio.
Oh, so, tell us about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've had this practice studio for many years. And I finally just took this opportunity to convert it into recording capabilities. So, and I'm at the same time learning Logic. So I never had messed with that before. So yeah.
That's crazy, right? Like you've kind of have had to add to your skill set during all of this,
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool, because that's what I'm starting to hear from a lot of actors and musicians is they're starting to have to learn more technical things so they can rely more on themselves because we don't know what's happening next.
Right.
So
You guys are our first live podcast tonight. We weren't doing this live until tonight. It's the first time we've ever done this live. We've had our 15th episode. We're not 100 billion episodes like Kevin does over here. We've Andrew and I have kind of been not lazy, but our schedules have been really busy, and we haven't had a chance to really.
Well, there's two of you guys, so yeah.
Right. I do want to ask you one question, John, specifically. You know,
Sure.
when you post your drums and stuff, and you have a specific symbol. Is it a yin yang that you black and white?
Yeah.
What is the purpose? Do you have a purpose behind that? Is there a reason for you to use that specific symbol? What is your purpose for that?
Well,
I just like it, man. No.
no. Everybody, I get comments all the time. Balance. And I happen to be a Libra, and I'm like the classic Libra. So it's definitely my character. And these guys will attest. They'll tell you. They know me.
John. Same
Sorry?
sign.
Oh,
Same
yeah.
sign.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's why we get along so well.
I've been meaning to question you on that for quite some time, and I always see that. It's a cool logo. I mean, I love it. You got a beautiful. You have a lot of drums that are just beautiful. I love it. But
Thank you.
I always wanted to question you on that specific what that meant to you as a is it a personal thing? Because we all have, each one of us I'm sure has a personal thing when it comes to.
What I was doing, I was getting heads made for the different bands, and I thought, I don't have one for when I don't have a specific band, like if I'm sitting in or whatever. And I thought, well, why not just do something that's close and dear to my heart? So that's kind of how. And then I put my little initials in there too, kind of personalize it.
What about you, Josh? Do you have anything personal that you do when you are on your kit or anything like that you play, or do you have any? What's your specialty?
Nothing too specific. I've had one kit my entire life. And that's
really,
I've had a
possible.
I know.
What are you playing?
It's a DW Satin Oil tobacco burst kit.
Wow.
And the truth is, it's been in storage for a lot of this year because we just haven't been playing. But I was living in LA at the time, and I actually lost my rehearsal space. But also, as these guys can attest, when you're out, you're just subject to whatever backline kit is there. And sometimes they're excellent, and sometimes they're not so good, and they require a lot of magic.
Oh, there is a special thing that he brings. So there's one drum that Josh brings every time.
Oh, yeah.
Every time. I do. I bring a Ludwig Superphonic snare.
Nice.
It's I believe 6x14, and it's so light. That's what I love about it. It's very, very light. And it always sounds great. And it's nice to just be able
pedals.
to. And the DW pedals. That's right.
Yeah.
And the DW pedals. Yeah.
So you guys don't do riders at all? When you get your backline, you can't request a certain thing in your riders? Or do you guys do riders?
We can. Whether or not they actually show up is a whole other question.
That's
For all you
right.
people who don't know what a rider is, that's when musicians, they request specific equipment or specific vocal microphones. Or
Red M&Ms.
Yeah.
Right.
In my case, a writer writes all my jokes, but
nice.
yeah.
Boom.
Here's a fun one for the fans. Rituals. What type of rituals do you guys do before you get on stage? You got to have something you do, something weird.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I was just going to touch base with Kevin O'Neill's comment, because I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Spawn Drums, who I've been with for 15 years. And
there we go.
I've got a beautiful custom Spawn kit that Brian Spawn built me from the ground up and has customized it many times since.
Mr. Endorsement, right?
Yeah. Well, Brian, Josh has met him a handful of times. And when we did that Greek theater show that I talked about, they brought out this gorgeous, beautiful acrylic and chrome striped Spawn kit, but they're not everywhere. And so it's tough to get, my special stuff. And I'm not going to carry a kit with me when we're doing, 40 tour dates all around the planet. But anyway, I just had to give that shout out.
That's even harder for me, being Mayer Brothers.
Yeah,
right.
No joke, huh?
Yeah. So. But we're all three. Are we all three Vader stick players? Is that right? Are you?
Yes.
Vader?
Look it up.
Yep, man. Vader sticks, Vader drumsticks. Chad Brandon Delini. Thank you, brother. Yeah. Anyway, rituals.
So what was the question that you had? Rituals, right?
Rituals.
Kevin, do you have any rituals?
Anything weird? Something.
Naked Ice has one.
Anything?
Driving 90 miles an hour to get to the show on time.
That's hilarious.
That happens often.
To do what?
Sorry?
90 miles an hour to do what?
To get to the show on time.
To get to the show.
Yeah, same with Flock sometimes, huh, Kevin?
Oh my gosh, man! The joke has been when we do these package tours that the seagulls are the only ones that don't fly. So we everybody else, everybody is flying the gigs, and our singer just really likes to drive everywhere.
Oh,
so
what is it? And I van.
Oh, I hadn't heard that one, but yeah, man, there were some bleary-eyed 16-hour drives to get to some gigs just with no minutes to spare. John, in fact, one gig we did where we drove from LA to Seattle. So Naked Eyes was on just prior to Flock of Seagulls, and Flock, because we have a whole bunch of triggers and some different modules, there's a separate drum set up, but we had to do a swap. And so while John is on finishing his last song, I'm adding triggers to his drum set, getting my kit set up, because we rolled in with 10 minutes before we were downbeat, I don't think we've missed any shows since I've been in the band, but that's not a fun ritual at all. Actually, that's not a ritual I would say. But I have a daily ritual that I had to start doing, because I talked about things that are out of my control. Our mutual friend Janine Self gave me this journal that I have, a daily journal where it's a gratitude journal. 3 minutes a day, man. I go in and I look at, all right, what are things that I can let go of from the day before? What are the things I want to focus on? And 3 things I'm grateful for. So it just takes a couple minutes, but to start my day that way, at least, especially when we're on tour, when you've been driving and flying and doing these gigs endlessly, then your head gets thick. And I don't even drink, man. But back in the day, I'd be pounding stuff down enough that my head was thick the night before. So starting my day off with a little positivity was my daily ritual. I wish I had the workout regimen that Josh Thompson has, where he goes off and exercises for 18 hours a day. But but just before we go on stage, I'm grateful that my band wants a half an hour before we go on stage to just shut everybody else out. You're backstage in the dressing room. Nobody else comes in. There's no wives, no girlfriends, no, buddies coming in. And you just get time to share the same air with the band members. And at first, I'm such a social guy. It was really hard to corral me in for that. But I noticed how much more synergy we had on stage when everybody did that. And it kind of just quiet your mind. It was a little meditation session. Not really, we were meditating. We just still did the same thing we would do. Just being in one room at the same time helped. So that's ours.
That's really
try that at 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh, I got a question for you. Wang Chung released Everybody Stay Safe Tonight this year. Did you redo the drums for that I guess cover of their own song?
No, I didn't. I'm pretty sure that they used all of the same tracks and instrumentation. That they just changed the lyrics,
vocals. Oh, okay.
The vocals. Yeah.
Well, that may be a fan favorite when we get back to concerts. So you may have to learn. You may have to learn harmonies on that.
I'm ready. I'm ready to add to the whole ritual thing. In terms of like the whole positivity thing that Kevin was talking about, Kevin and I have talked about, because he talks about the positivity thing, and it could be like he mentioned, and John can definitely attest to, because John's like, man, we're not going to make this gig, we need to hurry, and that can cause a lot of stress, but it's tough, because it's like, man, you're just exhausted, you're kind of tired, and it can be very, very easy to really overlook just how blessed and fortunate you are to be able to play these songs. I mean, it's hard to imagine that you could actually forget that, but you really can. And Kevin and I started doing this thing that I told him about, where so like neuroscience has discovered that like negative thoughts actually like physically cling to your headspace like Teflon. or like a Velcro. So negative thought, you'll get 1,000 good emails, you'll get one bad one, and that's the one that you focus on all day. And so negative thoughts will stick with you like Velcro, and positive thoughts will actually roll off like Teflon on a pan. And so in order to get a positive experience to really stick, you have to kind of focus on the gratitude of something for at least 15 seconds. And so, sometimes in the back, Kevin and I will just sort of stand there and look out at this audience that we get to play for, and just kind of go 15 seconds of gratitude. And we'll just sit there in 15 seconds of silence and kind of be present. And honestly, stuff like that really helps, especially if you're having a bad day. So yeah, that's one of our rituals that we have.
Cool.
John?
I have one similar. Well, if we're out on tour, if I get a chance, I like to go for a walk during the day. We don't usually do sound checks. There's so many bands. They have us so dialed in, like we don't even ever really do them. So I usually get the afternoons to myself, and I like to go for a walk. But to Josh's point, if I get up on stage, and it's like, we're feeling all that adrenaline and everything, especially if I'm not kidding when I say 90 miles an hour to get to a gig, and you get there and you're adrenaline, you're standing on the side of the stage, catching your breath, and then, get up onto the stage, and we got to be calm and play, and be effective. So I'll always try to find somebody in the crowd that is just singing along, dancing along, and I'll just focus to that person or those groups of people that are doing that. And that brings me right where I need to be. Instantly, like that.
That's good stuff.
So you guys all played huge arenas, or do you play smaller events? I mean, what's the biggest crowd you guys ever played to?
Cruise ship, we know they do, so we're there.
John, what's the biggest crowd you've ever played to, buddy?
Oh, probably about 5,000. Not to Kevin's level yet, but I did get to do the used to be the Arrowhead Pond. What is it now? It's just the pond, or
Honda Center. The Honda Center.
Center. Yeah, that was a dream come true, right? It was definitely a bucket list item.
Like your hometown, pretty much.
Yeah. I'd gone. My friend of mine used to play in Ozomatli, and they did that tour where they opened for Santana. And so I went backstage and hung out with them. And after the show, we stepped up onto the stage, and I just looked out going, I need to do this. And it happened, and so that was a rush. I didn't get to do the Greek theater.
That's
right. We were
right.
supposed to do it this year.
Yeah.
And that's another bucket. I've gone to so many shows there,
right,
and it didn't get to happen.
So, it'll happen.
I saw Stevie.
Yeah, it will. It will.
I saw Stevie next to Chris Isaac there years ago. That's the only time I've been to the Greek Theater, but it's a beautiful venue.
Oh yeah.
And that would be a dream to come true to play for sure. What about you, Josh? What is your biggest?
Well, John, I think maybe you've played to more than 5,000, because I know we've both have played the Honda Center, and you've also played Microsoft Theater, right, bud?
Oh, that's right. They're like, we did that twice, so that's like what, 10,000? Close to 10?
20,000 if you add it up.
Is it that much?
I want to say Microsoft Theater or the Honda Center holds like what, 15?
Oh, well, yeah, but we did it as the theater at the Honda Center.
Oh,
so they
right.
shortened it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was only,
right.
I think, like about 5,000 or 6,000 people at that
point.
But Microsoft is, it's much bigger.
Microsoft is such a good gig. Yeah. So I think, about that many. I think, I can't remember how many Microsoft Theater holds, but it was packed house.
Yeah.
I think so. We'll ask Siri as soon as this is done.
Yeah. Fact check.
And Kevin?
Last year we had a good one. Man,
there it goes.
4th of July, we played this incredible the FEQ festival in Quebec City. And so we were supporting Corey Hart, of all people, who's huge. He's as big as the Beatles, really? and he's from Montreal, and he hadn't played in 30 years. So this is his return. So he did a stadium tour, and we supported him in Toronto, where we had like 25 or 30,000 a couple of days before. and then he had 90,000 in the Quebec City show. And for our set, obviously we were just prior, so we were 75,000. And I've got a little video of that up on my page because I actually shot GoPro just from behind while we played, and I took a tiny little segment because at the end of the show, I've got this. We all roll out the end of the Iran, the big final finale, and I do this sort of roll and then just do a stick pop, pops up. Thank God I caught it right in front of everybody, and but I've got like an arm in the air moment, and where it just freezes with 75,000 to however many people out there, and to me, I remember walking out on that stage thinking, it can end today and I'm good with this, man. This is really, really nice, but it was special because there were a lot of people there, but after 10,000 or whatever, you can't see past the first handful of the rows anyway. So you kind of lose the context, but we talked about that Greek theater show, and Josh and I did have a moment around sound check that day where we walked up to the back of the house. We went to the farthest seats back and just embraced the moment of this accomplishment, that we were it was a celebratory moment, and there weren't any people there yet. We were just so appreciative for being there. And I didn't know if I told you this, Josh, but like while we were playing, because earlier after sound check, I snuck up through the skylight and climbed around on the roof of the Greek theater. Our dressing room had a ladder that left. So yeah, so
that's awesome.
Sorry to go on the tangent, but this is fun. Like the promoter came in and said, "Hey, who was sitting in your seat yesterday?" And we had like this killer dressing room, and they said, "Yeah, this is Ringo's room. Ringo was in that seat right there. Ringo's All-Star Band was there the night before." And I got the little goosebump moment. And then they said, so this whole panel is all these glass panels that pop open, and they have the AV station and everything, and the TVs and the multimedia stuff. One of those panels popped open, and there's a ladder that just went up through the ceiling, and I thought, that can't go on the roof. There's no way. And so when the promoter left, I climbed up, and our bass player and I climbed around, and you could see like Griffith Observatory from out there, which was really cool. And so I had to wait till the show started because I couldn't wait to watch some of the band up there. So I went to watch Dramarama from the roof, hanging off the top of it. So I was like leaning over, and that was one of my moments. I thought, I loved great tour memory, for the end of the tour.
Wow.
Awesome. Love it.
This has been great, Kevin O'Neill.
I have had a good time. These guys are very good people. I'm very honored to have you guys, all three of you here today. It's been a real pleasure to have all of you guys on our podcast.
Yeah, I mean, for drummers, this is as good as it gets, right?
Thanks, Andrew.
You guys don't realize that today just happens to be National Drummer Day. Did you National Hug a Drummer Day?
October 10th, right?
October 10th.
Is it really? Well, I'll be damned.
National Hug a Drummer Day. So
you have to give
I was a band geek all the way through grade school, middle school, and high school. So I know the stigma that drummers have. I played trumpet, so it was like putting a Siamese cat and a pit bull in a room together. So I have a respect for some drummers. I still talk to the ones I went to school with. So
where'd you go to school, Andrew?
I would like to say,
where'd you go to school?
I went to Apple Valley High School.
Wow.
Yeah.
Apple Valley.
Cuba Gooding Jr. went there.
Wow.
And some guy that's in Major League Baseball right now or went there. So
I broke down in Apple Valley last month.
That's a horrible story.
No, we should probably all have breakdown stories. That will be for another podcast.
Right. That'd be a good one.
I can tell you some breakdown stories when I was on the road too. Definitely some crazy stuff that happened in South Dakota of all places where I was at.
Okay.
Oh, yikes.
So, but John, I want to say thank you, especially to you, for getting these other two guys to come on with us. And
this is great.
Appreciate
Glad they could be there. Yeah.
John, of course. John, you're with the Naked Eyes. You have anything you want to say about website or anything that you want to say to the people about anything in the future you got coming up?
Yeah, I have a streaming coming up on alerttheglobe.com on October 24th, 6 p.m. we start. And if you need any remote drums, I'm your man.
All right.
Hit me up.
What about you, Josh? What do you got coming up in the future here?
No shows coming up as far as like Wang Chung stuff goes. However, I actually did speak with Nick Feldman earlier today, and he says that there's some one-offs in the works for next year. And so let's cross our fingers and hope that those happen. As far as my own personal music, if you could check that out at joshuathompsonmusic.com. I'm actually getting ready to go into the studio next week to record some new tunes. So I'm looking forward to that. So stay tuned for that.
Well, if you need a singing drummer for background vocals, let me know.
There you go.
Kevin, what about you, man?
My podcast is really what's taken my my time up. If you go to accesskevin.com, that's the best way to find it. Everything is archived there. Most of the interviews have people's social media links and some fun ones that are there for like the MTV generation. I did a best of, and I'm compiling best of some of these episodes. So MTV VJs like Downtown Julie Brown and Ricky Rackman and Ellen Hunter are all guests, and some of the actors from like, Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Better Off Dead and some of those things. They go to accesskevin.com. They can see them there, and then hopefully they'll subscribe to my YouTube channel so they get notified for future ones. I've got a good handful coming up, but I'm getting some surgery done Tuesday, and I'm going to be down for 6 weeks, and so I don't know when I'm going to have any podcast. Just like stomach stuff. They're going to go in and cut stuff out, and I don't know how much I'm going to be drumming after that. So I think, for the short term.
We'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers, brother.
Well, film it. It might be something good for the podcast.
I may live stream it. Yeah, absolutely.
Just do the podcast while you're on the table.
It's kind of,
just numb it so you can't feel it.
I considered actually doing one from the hospital bed, but you know what? And I just want to thank you guys, because truthfully, these two guests that you have with me are some of the most incredibly special people to me. I love those two humans and I miss them so much. And so just getting a chance to stare at these boxes where I get to look at their faces and think about memories we had, man, it's really, really special. So selfishly, this is more fun for me just to get to see them again. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And selfishly for myself, I mean, this is ratings for us. So to be a part of your special, precious memories is also a special, precious thing for me as well.
Yeah,
I'm just excited to have all of you guys on, because I'm a drummer, and to have you guys. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and listen to all the music and everything. To talk to these people that have actually been on tour and played these songs, and keeping this 80s music alive, especially. I gotta say, Josh, I'm a huge Cutting Crew fan. I've always been. I'd love to remake that song. I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight, because I do sing it, and I love that song. I met John last year. We've only known each other about a year or so, maybe a little over a year. Yeah, and he just amazed me. To watch the guy play, and he was just amazing to watch. And,
thank you.
He and I became fast friends, because I do concerts here every year, local concerts, and we bring a lot of tribute bands. And we, unfortunately, as many other places, didn't get to do that this year. But to have John, and to be a very humble man, very nice, all of you guys, very humble, and to have that is real musicianship right there, being humble, and I just appreciate all of you guys. So I just want you to know, thank you for that.
Pleasure to chat with you, man.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. John, Josh, and Kevin. You guys are more than welcome to bow out from here. We're going to do our outro, me and Kevin. So
okay,
Andrew, thank you.
See you guys.
Thank you so much, guys.
Take care.
Safe.
Really, it was an honor.
Bye,
Thanks,
John.
guys.
Bye, Kevin.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, Kevin and Andrew have a podcast, and there you go.
That was amazing, Kevin, having all of them on like
these
that.
Guys are just fantastic, man.
They were. That was.
How about that?
I feel like
the Cutting Crew.
We had. Go ahead. Okay, I'll go ahead.
Okay.
I feel like we were like front row at like a drummer fest of like 80s powerhouse music festival.
Absolutely. Wang Chung,
Something like that.
The Naked Eyes, and of course the Flock of Seagulls. I mean, these guys have been around, a lot, many years. And,
right. And I mean, obviously they weren't there at the very beginning, but they're carrying on that legacy. Being
they're keeping the music alive, and they're the members now. They're they're there, and they're playing it, and they're doing it, and people are going to see it, and they're keeping that original music alive. I mean,
and it's good because now when LA opens up and they do music again, we'll have backstage passes.
Well, I will. I don't know about you. We'll check it out. But we got to talk about where we're the best podcast ever.
Facebook.com/the best podcast ever.
And this is our first live show, season 1, episode 15. We're glad.
I don't know if it's our season finale or what, but that was good. I'm looking forward to season 2 because there's some things that I really want to do that we haven't been able to do yet. So we'll just have to keep staying tuned for that as we go forward with our podcast.
Right. And we're live on YouTube as too. We got able to do YouTube as well. And so you can check us out at
Spreaker. If you're driving and you can't watch us, that's okay. It's visually exciting to watch, but you can go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We're on them all.
That's right. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight, too, as well. It's been a while since we got a chance to be on here, but we'll try to be on here a little bit more often. Our schedules have been busy and haven't had a chance to get together. With Andrew going to school and me playing a lot, it's been kind of a busy trying to match schedules. And also we were working getting John and Josh and Kevin on because they all have different schedules as well.
It's hard to coordinate different time zones.
Right.
And the bigger and more important the person, the harder it is to get schedules to line up.
We do have some exciting other podcasts coming up too eventually.
We do. I'm working on a very controversial topic on the East Coast.
Yes.
In New Hampshire, and that's all I'm going to say.
That's going to be interesting, I have to say.
I don't even know what we're going to do with it, but all I know is we're going to do it, and it'll be fun.
Well, we always try to have fun here. Of course, if you have something you would like to talk about, you have a topic, or you have a business, or you have something going on that you think would interest the public, you can email us. Tell them to email.
Oh, yeah. KOAC Podcasts @gmail.com. KOAC Podcasts @gmail.com. I want to say shout out to Kathy. Kathy tuned in tonight to the show on Facebook. Let's see who else was here. There was a couple people. There was Kathy. There was oh my gosh, the names are Heather. Heather was another one. So want to thank those lovely people for tuning in tonight and sending in some comments. Claudia was also I think that one was from Germany. We had Germany tuning in tonight, Kevin.
Wow, nice.
Well, this morning, I guess, their time, whatever.
Yeah, they're 9 hours ahead of us.
Yeah, so anyways.
All right.
Yep. All right, guys. Follow us, like us, subscribe to us, and we will see you on the next one.
Kevin and Andrew have a podcast, season 1, episode 15. God bless you. Take care. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Later.